Yeah, the revelations now televised. A platform for you and I. And now look with full heart and clear eyes. Now, these are just my thoughts. Truth on how I feel on these topics I reveal. Please know my toll, I always keep it real. Can't face the word if you can't face facts. For your time, just open up your mind. That's it, just live, think big, now take that. With God in me, this here was made by design. Yeah, the revelation will be televised. REVELSations.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the REVELSations Podcast. It's your boy, Rev. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts. REVELSations Podcast. This is season 2, of course, and we are rocking on. You can contact the show directly. You can email me directly at revelationspodcast@gmail.com, or you can contact the show through Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at REVELSations Podcast. Please follow on those social media platforms, and more importantly, share this with somebody. Share. So what are we talking about today? We are talking about what I like to call the sad pursuit of happiness. The sad pursuit of happiness. And you might say, Rev, what does that mean? I think in the pursuit, in the chase, we're always chasing happiness, which is good. We have a lot of ambition, which is good. But I think it's creating a lot of sadness. And that sadness is coming out in two forms. It's coming out in two ways. Well, more than two ways, but two ways I'm going to primarily focus on today. And those two ways are going to be through complaining and division. Complaining and division. So, of course, we're going to start off by doing some definitions. Okay. And the definition of happiness. Okay. Happiness is a psychological or a state of emotional well-being that a person experiences either in a narrow sense, which means when good things happen in a specific moment, or more broadly as a positive evaluation of one's life and accomplishments overall. That second one is really it. More broadly as a positive evaluation of one's life and accomplishments overall. And I think that's where we're missing it. And I'm going to touch on this now, but I'm going to get back to it later. We are spending a lot of time, and rightfully so, looking through the windshield of our life. Imagine our life is like a car and we're driving. We spend most of our time looking through the windshield and not the rear view. And I'm saying I think we need to be looking through the rear view, but we'll get to that in a second. But they say, Rev, like, okay, happiness. And I'm like, yes, you should be content, right? Like being content is a good thing. Content is another word. It's a state of peaceful happiness, at peace, oneness, wholeness. I think we know what the word peace means. We're at a state of peace. And then the other word that will pop up in here is ambition. Ambition is a strong desire to do or achieve something. A strong desire to do or achieve something. That is what ambition means. Okay, so let's get to it. So there is an idea out there of like reverse happiness, or the idea basically means that the more you pursue something, the more ambition, the more strong desire you have to achieve something, and especially when you're trying to achieve happiness, you actually never get it because you're always chasing it. Okay, this will make me happy. Once I get here, I will become content. I will become peaceful. But if we're being honest, most of us, once we hit a mark, we don't become content. We may be content for a little while, and then we have this burning desire to have more, and we pursue it. And my case is that while that's a good thing and it makes life better and it gives us more things, we're always in the pursuit of something. We're always chasing something that we can never really achieve. The reason we can never achieve happiness is because we're always chasing it, instead of realizing that happiness can actually be where we are. Happiness can be, in that broader sense, like the definition says, a positive evaluations of one's life and accomplishments overall. But when we're always pursuing more, when we're always going after more, we fail to realize what we already have. Going back to my car analogy, right? When we're looking through the windshield, we're going ahead. I'm looking to see what's next. But oftentimes we don't realize that we've come so far. We're only looking at how far we have to go. So most of us have taken road trips before, and you get in a car and you rolling and you rolling and you rolling, and you see the sign that says your destination is 500 miles away. You're like, man, that's a long way. Right. But you're not looking in the rear view and you realize that you've already driven 300. You're only focused on the 500 more and not the 300 that you've already gone through. And I think, though it is dangerous to only look in the rear view, I think it is negative for our lives to only look at the windshield. We should be doing both. Yes, I want to pursue more. Yes, I want to go further. But I'm going to be more content and peaceful with where I am and even how far I have to go if I sometimes look in the rear view and see how far I've come. Think about your jobs. Most of us doing well or not doing well, but most of us are doing better today than we were 10 years ago. But we're complaining today the same as we complained 10 years ago, even though our salaries have doubled or tripled or what have you. Why? We're still looking, though my salary may have doubled, I need it to double again. I want it to double again. And there's a difference between need and want. I want it to double again. So I'm looking for the fact that I still need to go 2 times as far, but I'm never looking in the rear view mirror to say 10 years ago, I was making half this, or 10 years ago, I wasn't as high up in this position or high up in this company. And I think that's creating complaining and division. And I'll get to complaining and division in a minute. And again, I think we need to be ambitious, but while we're doing that, we need to remind ourselves how far we've come so that we can be content. Also, in the pursuit of this happiness, as I said a moment ago, we are never really satisfied or never really taking account of what we have now. There's some weird stat out there, and you guys can fact check me, and I'm sort of close. I don't have it 100%, but if you live in the United States, just live in the United States alone, you're like 75% richer than most of the people in the world. So we're complaining about that we don't have a better car, but most people in the world don't have a car. We're complaining that we don't have a better job, but like there's been great depressions when people didn't work. And I'm not saying to settle for where you are, but I am saying sometimes we need to evaluate so that we can be content. And that contentment, that peacefulness will bring us the happiness that we're actually searching for, but we will never get it because we're in the constant chase for it. But then we have to realize if we pause a minute, happiness can actually be around us if we evaluate our total life. We evaluate all of our accomplishments. We may not be where we ultimately want to be, but we're further than we once were. Okay. So remember, reverse happiness. I'm always trying to pursue. I'm going for more. I'm going for more. And the more I go for, which is great, oftentimes the sadder I'm going to be. Okay. I was listening to a podcast and they made a quote and I wanted to give it. And this is by this guy named Viktor Frankl. He said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our responses lies our growth and our freedom. I'll say it again. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Why did I bring that up? Because life happens. Something happens or something doesn't happen. That's the stimulus. Most of us respond to that in a negative way. We're sad, we're upset. But there's a space. Something happens, okay? And in between when that thing happens and how we respond to it, that space is our power to choose our response. A lot of times we're choosing unhappiness. We're choosing discontentment. We're choosing non-peaceful situations because when we don't have what we want, we become upset and we respond to it in a negative way. We begin to complain. We begin to divide. And that will cause more unhappiness. But in that space, in our response, lies our opportunity to growth and our opportunity for freedom. If something bad happens, you say, you know what? This one didn't work out, but I'm going to look back and I know a lot of things didn't work out. But if we can be honest, more things have worked out in our favor than have not. Have worked out in our favor than not. So for example, most of us might say, well, like some people might say, well, I'm hungry. I don't have a lot of food. I bet you've eaten more days than you have not. You know, I don't have the best car or I don't have the best job. You have been able to pay your bills more days than you have not. So things have worked out for you more often than they have not. But for some reason, we tend to focus more on what doesn't go right in our lives instead of what does. Now, this isn't just an American thing. Humankind has been doing this. I'm going to go to the biblical text and we're going to talk about the children of Israel when they were exiting from Egypt. They were in bondage for over 400 years. Whether you believe or not, the moral of the story is what I'm really getting at. In bondage for over 400 years, Moses comes, helps them become free. They're traveling and the road is hard. And what do they begin to do? They begin to complain about how far they need to go. And some of them even said, it would have been better if you would have left us back in Egypt in chains. Think about that. They had their freedom, but it became hard and it became not what they wanted. And they wanted to go further than they were right now. And they begin to complain, even to the point of, I would rather go back to where I was. That's wild. Instead of just looking at, you know what, where I am now, this is so much better than what it used to be. But it's the sad pursuit of happiness. Okay. And I said earlier, it comes out in a couple of ways. I'm going to touch on: complaining and division. When we look at relationships, men complain about women, women complain about men, right? We both have our station. We both have our plights, but we spend so much time saying how worse we have it than the other person. And I don't know if we're looking for validation. I don't know what we're looking for. I don't know if we're looking for the other person to say, yeah, you got it a lot worse than me. And that gives us some type of badge that we can wear. But if we think about it and we both say, you know what, both of us have plights. They might be different. Ladies, you have it bad. You have it no worse than men. You have it different than men. You don't have it worse than men. Okay, men, we have it bad. We do. We have it bad, but we have it no worse than women. We have it different than women. In some areas, women, quote unquote, have it worse than us. They experience some things that we don't experience. They experience some trials and tribulations that we don't experience. But under the same breath, ladies, some things we experience that you don't. And it's wrong. And I'm going to flat out say it's wrong to say that person doesn't have it as bad as me because I'm experiencing this and they aren't. But you're not taking into account what they're experiencing and you don't, because we're looking to complain, and that complaining divides us. That complaining divides us, and division is not going to work. Okay. Everybody knows the saying: united we stand, divided we fall. This isn't just in relationships. This is in friendships. This is in politics. This is in business. United we stand, divided we fall. Okay. I'm going to say it a little different. Divided, they stand. United, they fall. Let me say that again. I said that wrong. I'm trying to say, when we are united, they fall. When we are divided, they stand. How about that? When we are united, they fall. The powers that be fall. The power structures fall. They don't want us to be united. But when we are divided, they stand. They do. We need to be more cohesive. We need to be together. We need to realize we have more in common than we don't. Then that complaining stops and that division stops. And then we become more peaceful and more content. We have this sad pursuit of happiness where we're always pursuing more, or we're always comparing scars. My scars are worse than your scars. Not really. They're just different. They're different. And different doesn't mean better or worse. Our scars aren't equal, fine, but that doesn't mean one is worse than the other. We both have issues. We both have problems. And I really want to hammer that home, that we are in this pursuit of more. The pursuit of more is robbing us of now, and we're always trying to be happier than happy. Like we all want to be at the top. And it is a sad day when we're climbing up a ladder just to realize that it is pressed up against the wrong wall, meaning we have climbed all the way up to the top, pursuing this happiness. And then we realize this doesn't really make me happy. This isn't what it is. Okay. So again, are you pursuing happiness at the expense of contentment and peace? Are you pursuing happiness at the expense of contentment and peace. And I never said don't be ambitious. I never said don't have that strong desire for more. But while we're doing that, let's review where we are. Let's take account where we are. Let's focus more on what we have than what we don't have. And when we do that, we will become happier because we will realize that happiness is around us. Last point I'll give, and then I got to get out of here. So if we think about it, a lot of people, we live in the United States and we're complaining about stuff. Right now, I live in a third world country, Colombia. These people have so much less, but they complain so much less than most people in the United States. We have more. So the fact that we have more makes us desire even more. And we desire more, but we don't get more, so we complain more. I hear more people from the United States, my friend, my family, online, everything, complaining. You don't hear the complaining nearly as much from people here in South America. They have it a lot worse than we do in North America. But they seem to be content because they count the blessings that they have instead of worrying about the blessings they don't have. I'm done. Another chapter, another verse, I should say, of the REVELSations Podcast. Again, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Share this with somebody who is in the sad pursuit of happiness and let them know it's better to be content. Let Rev's words marinate with them. Maybe it'll teach them. Maybe it'll change them. Maybe they can find a way to be happy because they'll see all the things that are around them that are blessings. I'm done. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Hit me up on all the social media platforms, REVELSations Podcast at gmail.com, and then on social media at the REVELSations Podcast. Hallelujah, holla back. I am because we are, like the t-shirt says. Peace.